You.
I'm Eddie Robinson, and in this episode, recognizing pride and the struggle of gay black men. There's an organization here in Houston called the T.R.U.T.H Project. It's a nonprofit for LGBTQ communities of color and allies that promotes self-awareness through the arts. One of the group's latest initiatives, a brand new digital film entitled Black Boy Symphony.
We hide behind rainbow flags that don't acknowledge us, even though we are here. Behind baggy clothes and 40 ounces on the corner of the bodega, black boys are born into this world with nothing.
The movie is provocative and gives voice to black men after a tumultuous 2020. The T.R.U.T.H Project's founder and CEO, Kevin Anderson, gives an exclusive preview. Oh yeah, I feel you. We hear you. I see you. First, the news. It's I See You. I'm Eddie Robinson. Filmmaker Marlon Riggs directed a film called Tongues Untied. The film was released back in 1989, and it blended documentary film footage and integrated personal accounts and poetry into a depiction of what it's like to be a man. What it's like to be a black man. More specifically, what it's like to be a gay black man. Now, I recall the movie kept reiterating the notion of silence.
What legacy is to be found in silence?
How many lives lost?
What future lies in our silence?
How much history lost?
And how the word silence goes hand in hand with gay black men. How the straight community views gay black men. How the gay community views them. How both black and white, straight and gay communities view them. The impact of what HIV and AIDS, what does this do to the mental state of gay black men, how sexuality is perceived, how hypersexuality is dealt with, how femininity is viewed within a hypermasculinity environment. I mean, this movie goes there.
Some of the anger will be exercised, but the hurt, which has not been given voice, prevails and accumulates.
Silence is a way to grin and bear it, a way not to acknowledge how much my life is discounted each day.
But even before the film would see the light of day and released on PBS, stations across the country in the early 90s had banned the broadcast, including K.U.H.T., that's right, PBS in Houston, and several other outlets, including Denver, Milwaukee, all public TV stations in North and South Carolina, Mississippi, and Oklahoma. They did not air Tongues Untied. Some called the documentary pornographic art and felt the material used too much graphic language and it was highly, overly sexualized. But many stations aired the broadcast, applaud the film, adding that Riggs had been bringing awareness to issues that a lot of gay black men had been facing, placing stigmas and stereotypes of the African-American gay male front and center. Much of what was featured in that film still resonates so strongly even today. And now, fast forward over 3 decades later, we're starting to see glimpses of the film and its ideologies in a new digital film project called Black Boy Symphony. The digital feature explores the lives of several black men dealing with the stresses of a challenging year of 2020. That's been nothing short of issues from COVID-19, mental health, isolation, HIV, AIDS, these cultural/social injustices that have rocked our world as of late. I See You really wants to capture, with this episode, an answer to one key question. What's really standing in the way of gay black men who so desperately look to seek out their own voice, their own identity, in a world already challenged by social injustice, racial inequalities, and improved access to public health? How can we be seen? How can we be finally heard? That's why we're so grateful to have with us today the gentleman behind this new digital feature, Black Boy Symphony, Kevin Anderson. He's the founder and chief executive officer of the T.R.U.T.H Project, an organization right here in Houston that helps to educate and mobilize LGBTQ communities of color and their allies through the arts. Kevin, thank you so much for being a part of the show, brother.
Thank you for having me.
And we're also here with John Nichols. John is also featured in the film Black Boy Symphony, and we'll get more insight and details into the role he played in the program later. John, Thanks for being a guest on ICU.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Kevin, first off, tell us more about how you became involved in the Truth Project. And I love the way it's spelled. You're spelling it out for us. T.R.U.T.H Project. What was the significance behind all that?
First, truth is an acronym for telling real, unapologetic truth through healing. Those words truly capture what our focus is as an organization. Here in Houston, it's just really an honor to have been connected and to continue to be connected with the arts community, with the LGBT community, the queer community, those that are open to listening and trying to understand, those that don't know their path, but they're willing to step in. I feel like that's everyone that I've encountered. It was 13 years ago that I started an open mic titled Heart and Soul that was a non-discriminatory space for people to come and truly share their art, their thought, their voice. From that space, the Truth Project was birthed because I was encountering individuals that were sharing on the mic, that were telling for the first time about their struggle being a same-gender loving woman, battling her husband to get the kids, or an individual telling for the first time and sharing their HIV status on the mic. These were the types of moments that we were having at Heart and Soul, and I wanted to create a space specifically for the artists to begin to utilize their art as a healing mechanism for themselves and also to give it back to community. And so that was 13 years ago for Heart and Soul. We, as an organization for Truth Project, we've been around now for 8 years. This has just really been a platform and a journey.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how you got involved in this in the first place. You're from Houston?
No, I'm actually from Inglewood, California.
You're kidding?
Yeah, I'm from Inglewood.
Talk to us about all that.
Yeah, so, growing up in Inglewood, only child, very sheltered. So that was my life, scared of gangs, wanted to get away.
Only child, interesting.
Yes, only child.
Same here.
And when I left California to live with my biological father for 6 months, during that time, my mother moved to San Antonio, Texas. So I found myself rooted in the South where I knew nothing about really religion. I grew up non-denominational. So seeing my brothers hurting about things that they encountered, it really threw me. And so I found myself here having dialogue. And as a person that loves to have engagement and talk one-on-one, creating spaces for men to come together and have those discussions. So that really is the root and base of where a lot of this comes from. And I'm an artist. So I'm a spoken word artist. I am a visual artist. Now things have changed a bit. My art has now become curation, but it's still the root of who I am.
Yeah. Black Boy Symphony. Where did that idea come into focus? I noticed that Black Boy Symphony provides great ideas and resources of where gay black men can turn to for services that are available to folks right here in Houston, whether it be mental health, a psychiatrist or a physician, HIV/AIDS related sources to reach out to, medical issues pertaining to even PrEP. How did that idea come about, Black Boy Symphony? Where'd that come from?
Well, the pandemic has brought out quite a bit in thought process and personal process. And I remember being home one day. I'm a Post-it person, so I write things down and I'll put words up on the side of the computer. And I wrote down the word symphony. I didn't know where I was going to go with it. But I remember a few weeks later, just looking over at that word, and I screamed. I was thinking about this timing last year and Mr. Floyd's death and conversations that I was having with my brothers and sisters, and a lot of hurt. A lot of pain. Myself, I am a person that publicly speaks on the fact that when it comes to my mental health, it's been an area of struggle in the past. It's something that I have to consciously and intentionally every day care towards. And because of that, because of what we're encountering with this pandemic and the isolation that individuals are experiencing, I really wanted to create a space for the voice of black men. I've seen it. It's happened. But during this pandemic, I wasn't seeing it enough. And unfortunately, what we had to fall back on was television, was YouTube. These were the spaces that were telling our stories. And I was not seeing the story of trauma. I wasn't seeing the story of struggle. And I wasn't seeing the story of overcoming a lot of that stuff and what that looks like and putting those things in place. And so for me, when I hear the word symphony, I think about the highest note for black men. And so that's how the body of those words came together as we think about all that we encounter in this high point. And then what do we do at that high point? Because it is a choice that we have to make. So that's where Black Boy Symphony came from. And I really wanted to ensure that we could cover as much as we could. You spelled it out earlier: mental health, HIV, assault, other health disparities. Like, I wanted it all to be poured out. And even what we're going to more than likely speak of, an apology around the fact that these things bring up trauma, that it hurts, but we have to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about it right here on ICU. I'm Eddie Robinson, and we're learning more about the Truth Project, an organization here in Houston that connects LGBTQ people of color with community resources through social art, feature film, and spoken word events. Kevin Anderson leads the organization. John Nichols, who's here with us as well, he's also part of the Truth Project. John, how did you get caught up with Kevin?
I met Kevin at Heart and Soul. A friend of mine brought me, and I watched all of these beautiful Black people show up in this space. And for me, it was my real life deaf poetry jam. I'd never been in a poetic space, or anything like that. And there are all these queer people, and some of them are straight, and they're just all mingling together. And I've only ever felt that way 2 other times in life. The first time was when I walked on the campus of Prairie View and saw all of the different versions of Black.
So you went to Prairie View?
I did.
Yeah, so did I. Great.
Awesome. PB.
Yes.
And then when I went to Ghana, West Africa, and to touch down and see all of these people that look like you. And I went to Ghana courtesy of U.H., the study abroad program here. But when I went into Heart and Soul, it was just, it's an experience. It's truly something that I cannot describe. And I'm very intentional with my words. Yeah. I'm a poet, and so I'm very good with them. But Heart and Soul is something to be felt. And fast forward maybe a couple of shows, I got on stage and I admitted to the world that I love men as much as I love women. Now significantly more. But yes, that was it. And I was nervous, and I wrote this poem, and a friend of mine, Hamida, she sat on the stage literally with her legs hanging out. I get teary-eyed every time I think about it, because that was such a transformative time for me. And it's, to this date, one of the only times I've ever really felt safe. I can count on both hands moments when I really felt safe, and it was just me and her, and I stood in front of this mic and I told this story. And it wasn't just I love guys, it was I loved a man, and that man hurt me, and it reminded me of all of the hurts and all of the other men that have hurt me, and all of the other women that have hurt me, and all of the times that I had been unsafe. Kevin was like, if I'd have known you was going to do that at Heart and Soul, I would have told you to do it at Truth Project. And lo and behold, I know a couple weeks later, I did it at Truth Project. And fast forward, I'm now a member of the board of directors, and I love everything that Truth Project stands for and what it means to heal through art. What I love about it, and what I think is so novel about it, is you can't argue with someone's story. Their experience is their experience, and they own the rights to that story. We don't criticize art the way we criticize people. We see all types of things inside of art. You put up 50 paintings up there of something, and it doesn't matter what it is. You find 50 people that'll connect with it in different ways. That's right. And it'll show up in some way. And so that's what Truth Project does. It's one of the safest spaces to tell your story, because it's your art. And it's your expression, and nobody is fighting you or arguing with you about your experience, because it's now art. It's told in a way that provides a little protection, if that makes sense.
Coming up, more with Kevin Anderson and John Nichols of the Truth Project. And we'll also give you a preview of a brand new digital film produced by the Truth Project called Black Boy Symphony, a compelling documentary that will intrigue you regardless of your orientation. Stay tuned. I'm Eddie Robinson. ICU returns in just a moment. We're back. It's ICU. I'm Eddie Robinson. There's an organization here in Houston called the Truth Project, and through art, This group works to mobilize LGBTQ communities of color and their allies with resources promoting mental, emotional, and sexual health. Our guests include two men from that organization, Kevin Anderson and John Nichols. In November and December of 2020, Kevin, the group's founder and CEO, started shooting a digital film project called Black Boy Symphony in Houston's historic downtown Fifth Ward. It explores the lives of several men of color amid a global pandemic. These black men of varying ages reveal so much about who they are and what their lives have been like as gay men. This feature reminds me of another film released back in the late 80s entitled Tongues Untied, an essay film that also gives voice to gay black men and how they confront racism, homophobia, and marginalization. Though not as controversial, Black Boy Symphony does offer up provocative insight on the same issues and concerns that many gay men of color are still grappling with some decades later. I See You has exclusive audio from the Truth Project's new film. Here's a soundbite taken from Black Boy Symphony. It's from a gentleman by the name of Jordan Edwards.
I want to give everybody the message that as black men, we're taught that we have to hold things in. We have to go through it by ourselves. We can't talk about our emotions. We don't have those, but we do because we're all human. So as we move forward in life, I want everyone to take the chance to understand who you are as an individual and find resources, find tools, find things that work for you as a person, because there is somebody out there for you and there is a tool out there for you, because we all need help sometime.
Speaking on that notion, Kevin, I want you to give me your take. It seems men have always felt that sense of doing things alone. Regardless if you're gay or straight, that's really sort of like a characterization of men. I'm always subscribed to that notion. It seems gay black men are having an extra challenge of having to deal with that sense of isolation. How has what Jordan has said here, how has that impacted you as a gay black man?
Well, I mean, he tells the stories of many, and I fit within that many. I feel like we're a tribe. And so when he speaks about not being able to show emotion, I've experienced that. I shared earlier being only child, but I was also an only child where my mother did not make the effort to ensure I pushed my masculinity or manhood, however we want to define that. That's another show. But she ensured that I was myself. And so it wasn't until I was around others that I began to realize that my softness wasn't often accepted. And so because of that, I would keep my mouth closed. I wouldn't share how I felt. I would hold it in. I would let that trauma boil up. So he speaks for the tribe. I'm also a veteran, so it takes me back to my days in the military. And I remember my first 2 years in the Navy. I remember intentionally gravitating towards the brothers so that I could become more like them.
Interesting.
And as I sit here now in my Timberland boots, I mention that because it's important. I started wearing Timberlands because of what they represented in their Timberland boots. I wanted to be like them, but I lost my voice, and they didn't want to hear the sensitive side of my voice.
Yeah. What came to mind was parents teach homophobia indirectly and sometimes directly in the suffocating of expression, of emotion, of being able to feel.
Okay.
What we teach is we associate those behaviors with all things bad. So when you go down that road, okay, so now we got our T-chart of all things bad and all things good. Especially in the black community, where homosexuality is a bad thing, and we look at the leading driver for behavior and morals and all of those things for black people, and that's church and everything that's taught herein.
I don't care what scientists say. If you say you were born this way, then you're saying, God, you're a liar. And I see this thing down here, but I'm going to ignore it.
You look at the media that says gay people, queer people operate in this way.
That's right.
And so we've been taught not only to suppress us being emotional, but to also call anything associated with emotion gay or bad.
Have you read the YouTube comments lately? Man, that's gay. Gets dropped on the daily. We become so numb to what we're saying. A culture founded
even
from
in the
oppression.
sense of when somebody's saying, oh, that's gay. And not in the sense that it was actually gay. It was just, that was a thing that I could say was wrong. And so it's just insert wrong word here. It's that boy will cry over anything. You look at him hard, he'll cry. Remember, my cousin had a cap gun and it had a little air cartridge in it, and he used to shoot it and he ran out of pellets, and so the cap gun just had air that would shoot out, and so he kept shooting it at us and we'd laugh. And so at a point it ran out of air altogether. They couldn't get another cartridge. We were kids, and I was like, air gun, air gun, air gun. I've said that all day long, and he never really said anything, and when he did say something, he said your mama. And for whatever reason that hurt, and we all grew up together, so it wasn't like he was really saying anything against my mom. She picked us up later on that night, took us to go get something to eat. But whatever that was, it triggered something in me, and I broke down sobbing. And I remember everybody making fun of me. And as I think about that, I can think about so many other instances where you don't feel safe showing your emotion, and then how that all continues to build up and eventually it comes out.
And it's not pretty. When black men associate that with homosexuality, it's automatically seen as being weak. And those stereotypes have so much power within them to oppress gay black men. I know I opted to dive into radio broadcasting because I was able to hide behind a microphone and 100,000 watts of terrestrial radio bandwidth. It's truly something that allowed me to have that comfort zone because no one could judge me. No one could predetermine who I looked like or what I really sounded like when I didn't have my microphone. And I had a hard time trying to locate others that looked like me after I pushed the microphone aside. So I sought out these people like Langston Hughes and James Baldwin and Donny Hathaway.
Love is so hard to do.
Bayard Rustin. I mean, these were some people that I felt like I related to from a stereotypical standpoint because I saw, growing up in small Mississippi, where I'm from, images and news that painted gay to be this unworthy, sinful caricature. I could not get past RuPaul.
Rise and shine, all stars.
I could not get past Sylvester. I couldn't get past any of those because they threw me off. And hearing news stories, even as a kid growing up about the AIDS epidemic.
Nationwide, more than 1,600 victims since 1979. 4 out of every 10 dead. Cases doubling in number every 6 months. Public health officials say it is a deadly epidemic among gay men.
A serial killer in New York City murdering gay men in the 90s. Matthew Shepard, which was really intense at that time.
Of a gay college student in Wyoming. 21-year-old Matthew Shepard.
Prosecutors say Shepard was targeted because he was gay.
It was society's way, John, and you mentioned this, of digesting those images from back in the day and then media regurgitating back those judgment calls. And they're telling me this is what gay looks like. This is what a sissy looks like. This is what a fat on some level looks like. That hurt. Subconsciously, I didn't want to realize that it hurt, but I laughed with these Eddie Murphy stand-up jokes of what he used to say back in the day.
Afraid of gay people. Petrified. I have nightmares about gay people. I have this nightmare that I go to Hollywood and find out that Mr. T is a
I laughed at the Men on Film skits on In Living Color.
And welcome to Men on Films.
I would see this, internalize it, suppress it, and just compartmentalize it, because there would also be this religious element, of course, that was associated with it coming from Mississippi. And so it's all of that bubbling up inside and just exploding. And so the best thing that you can do is to silence it, suppress it. That's the safest way.
It's the line in the poem, right? To be seen is to be unsafe. That's it. You can't be seen. And as I'm listening to you talk, it makes me think about how many of us have gone into professions that were really built around a coping mechanism, right? That's a coping mechanism. I'm hiding behind this because somebody has told me that the way that I was brought into this world, which is insane because we're celebrated when we're born. And then from that moment on, we're judged. From the very moment we're born till the time we die, we are celebrated for one instance, and then we're judged. Then everybody throws all of their things on us, and we just try to find a place where we can be as naked as we possibly can, not realizing that even in our nakedness, we're not in our closet, we're in somebody else's.
Wow.
And we're wearing their clothes. And what is that like to come out of your own closet? There's so many people that are out but still in somebody else's closet.
Yeah.
We're speaking with Kevin Anderson, founder of the T.R.U.T.H Project, and John Nichols of Houston. He's also here with us. They're a part of a new film called Black Boy Symphony, which explores how gay black men of different age groups and backgrounds are having to deal with life post-pandemic. And I'm wondering, Kevin, about Black Boy, how did you get these amazing voices within this project?
So my process starts almost a year out, from selecting music to thinking about the angle and what's to be shared. But in all honesty, a lot of it comes from what I did not plan. There's trust. Everyone that I've worked with on projects, they come in trusting myself, the T.R.U.T.H Project. They're trusting the space to be able to share their narrative, to put it out and know that it will be welcomed. Fortunately, I know a lot of folks, and I have personal relationships, and I have new relationships. There's times I can meet someone and truly say, we're going to be connected. I don't know how. And then I'll reach out to them so that we can sit down and talk so I can get to know them. So that's what my screening process looks like. I know who hurts, who's in pain. I know who feels voiceless. I know who knows that their voice is heard. I know all of these things because I encountered them and I have relationships with them. And so that's really what this process looked like. And really all of the other projects in the past.
I'm Eddie Robinson, and you're listening to ICU as we chat more with Kevin Anderson and John Nichols of the T.R.U.T.H Project here in Houston. We wanted to share another quick soundbite taken from Black Boy Symphony, a new digital movie that's produced by the T.R.U.T.H Project. Here's an audio clip from 17-year-old Miles Keys.
I am 17 years old. I have lived in Houston, Texas all my life, and this year obviously has been a lot. That's an understatement, but I look at 2020 and my thoughts are that people who look like me are being hunted, we're being targeted, and our oppressors don't even have the dignity to admit what they're doing. We are taking a stand, we're fighting back. We watched a man be brutally murdered in the street for no reason for that man to die. We watched Breonna Taylor get shot in our own home for no reason. And we have to sit and fight to justify why we're fighting. We have to explain to people why these things are wrong. We have to fight for basic human rights. Even at our school, I pull up and I park next to somebody who is telling me why Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. And it's just like, it's funny almost to me because I sit down and I look at my life, and me and my friends, we talk about how a lot of times we have this idea in our brains that our oppressors are these hillbilly, old-fashioned, wild, wild west kind of people, and they're not. They're people who are everyday students just like us. And so what we talk about a lot is targeting those issues that are literally right at our footsteps.
Coming up, John Nichols of the T.R.U.T.H Project shares his story from Black Boy Symphony in one of the most revealing and emotional conversations our show has ever experienced. I'm Eddie Robinson. Do not miss this next segment of ICU. We'll be right back. It's ICU. I'm Eddie Robinson. We've been speaking with the T.R.U.T.H Project's Kevin Anderson and John Nichols. This organization, with the help of social art, connects LGBTQ communities of color and their allies with mental, emotional, and sexual health resources that they need. We've been playing snippets of a recent digital film that was produced by the T.R.U.T.H Project called Black Boy Symphony, a documentary that explores the lives of several black men in the wake of a tumultuous year, 2020. The story of John Nichols is also featured in Black Boys Symphony as a spoken word piece in the film, and ICU is fortunate to bring you his monologue piece exclusively. At the end of this 7-minute monologue, the three of us will return with a response as well as details on when Black Boys Symphony will be available to the public for viewing. But for now, join us as John Nichols walks up to a microphone on stage and delivers his powerful life story.
I guess I should start with an apology. I don't quite know how to do this. I don't really have the words, and I'm scared. I'm so scared that I will pull your triggers, that I will trigger your trauma, that I will dishonor your reality, that I will replace it with an impossible hope, that I will let you down. May 2nd. 1984, a hospital bed, a girl, an empty room, an absent father. Happy birthday, my beautiful black boy. I love you already, but I won't be able to protect you. And I won't be able to shield you, though I will try. This life I brought you into will be your cross to bear. And since I know I will fail you, I will give you the only thing I have left to give, my life. And I will leave you with the only wisdom that I have to offer. Find someplace safe and hide. And so our lives begin. We take our first breath. We opened our eyes to see this bright world, not realizing that it will be the only time that it sees us back. And the charge ensues. The fight for this black boy and his black body begins. For me, it was 5. For others, 17, for some 64, but no matter the years, no matter the experiences in between, we all came to the same realization that we are not safe here. And so we hide. Not our bodies, but our smiles, our love, our emotion, our essence, tucked away behind our masculinity, a lack thereof. We trade smiles for stares and laughter for silence. And bit by bit, our humanity, the very thing that makes us us, is replaced with a hardness, a rigidness, because black boys that smile are seen, and black boys that are happy are seen, and black boys that are soft are seen. And to be seen is to be unsafe. And so we hide, we run, tucking away all of the joy that is inside of us, and what remains is cold, hard, emotionless, and we call it strong. We call it protection. We call it a man. But hard things break. Hands above my head, reaching to a God I pray is there. This melanin skin looking back at me, it's scared now. My white palms facing this blue uniform that's now got my manhood and strength in a vice grip, hoping he sees the white in my skin and recognizes I'm human, because bullets tear through muscle and they pierce walls. And what cuts even deeper is the realization that this black body doesn't belong to me, so I suffer in silence. Unable to reconcile, I fear reproduction. How can I protect my family when I can't protect myself? I don't hate black women. I'm just terrified of letting them down. I'm not an absent father. I just can't. I just can't heal the guilt about bringing a life into this world, knowing that there's nothing that I can do to save it, and so I hide. We hide behind rainbow flags that don't acknowledge us, even though we are here. Behind baggy clothes and 40 ounces on the corner of the bodega, black boys are born into this world with nothing. We are guaranteed nothing. We are expected to achieve nothing, but we are given everything. Our ideals, our morals, our God, our anger, our sadness, our sexuality, our identities, none of which are ours. They don't belong to us. We did not earn them, and today we give them back. Today, we start taking our legacies, taking our narratives, and creating new ones, shedding impossible expectations, burning off the toxicity of masculinity, releasing generations of abuse and exploitation. I see you. And you don't scare me. I welcome you. And all that you are owed, and all you dare to be, and all you are entitled to. So when the world sees you as hard, I see you as precious. And when the world sees you as a savage, I see you as one of a kind. Your loudness makes your presence known, and your softness ensures it remains. This system was made to break us. But I'll pick up your broken pieces, and I'll collect your fragile spirits, and together, fathers, husbands, sons, brothers, boys, homies, we build better for our grandsons. Soft or hard, love is an act of heroism. Happiness is audacity. Vulnerability is strength. There's space for your softness here. Because we are fragile and we break. And it's time we let our cracks be seen, break silence and isolation, exchange stares for smiles, cold for warmth, fear for solace. When that little black boy inside of you is scared again, when he goes to open his mouth and scream and is reminded of mama's wise words, when he goes to love and is reminded of daddy's stern hand, I'll hold space for his brokenness so that you can be bold. And I'll hold space for his healing so isolation won't be your only companion. You don't owe an apology to anyone. There's no guilt. There's no shame. There's no regret here. You did not do this. This is not your fault. Sometimes the race is about winning. And sometimes it's about living until you can. And what I know is, until you die, you are alive. And while you are alive, you must live. And that is to say that until you transcend, you will transform. There's no monolith here. There's no one life to live. There's no one identity to be. This black joy, these black hands, both of them are instruments in this black boy symphony.
It's ICU. I'm Eddie Robinson, and you've been listening to a 7-minute monologue performed by John Nichols of the T.R.U.T.H Project. It was a powerful spoken word piece written for the digital film Black Boy Symphony. We're speaking with the creator of the documentary, Kevin Anderson, along with John himself. The three of us sat together and listened at our ICU studios, and the first question that I asked John was,
how did you come up with all of that? That was unbelievable.
That was probably one of the most traumatic experiences that I can remember in my adult life to date. One of the things I value a lot about Kevin is one of the things that, transparently speaking, I hate the most is that he sees me. And though I know I'm safe with him, it's still uncomfortable being seen. And then he encourages me. And sometimes that encouragement is a bit forceful. It's not forced, but it is stern. It's a declaration. And it's needed. And I value it and I welcome it. But he encourages me to share that transparency and that vulnerability with the world. And it's so scary. And it's so hard. And sometimes it becomes very freeing. And sometimes I feel like I just tighten the shackles. It's probably not the best word to use, but I do. Listening to that, I feel so many things. I've literally felt everything with that piece, but something new that just came up was I feel like I've done myself and Black queer men a disservice in silver lining this cloud, adding rainbow to this hurricane. Sometimes things just suck. And that's the sentence. There's a period there. Sometimes they don't get better. There's a period there. Sometimes they get worse. There's a period there. And I did exactly in the poem what I really didn't want to do. Like, our experience sucks. Like, most of it is bad. We find some good stuff and we make some good stuff, but we shouldn't have to turn lemons into lemonade all the time. And sometimes we don't have the sugar or the water and we eating lemons, and that's reality. And as long as we keep silver lining this cloud and we don't let it rain, like, it has to rain. Like, sometimes it has to. And I think that when I silver line things, I don't allow myself to completely be in whatever the current situation is. And I don't allow myself to feel through all of those things. And this piece is interesting because when Kevin asked me to curate something or to write something, typically my experience and other people's experiences, and they are heavy because my life is heavy and they hurt. And so they become healing for me when I can write them. And then when I have to memorize them, I have to relive that over and over. And the lightness that I felt in being able to take it out of my head and put it somewhere, it's 10 times worse now because I'm taking it and I'm forcing it back in to a place that I don't want it to be. And that's really hard. And even in this experience, the way that it was recorded, it wasn't something that I was used to. I'm used to having people in the front row. I'm used to being able to see people that I can. Amita has been with me. My friend that sat at that stage, she's been with me every single show. And whether it's not been Amita, it's been somebody else. There's always somebody, and there was nobody there. It was just Kevin and this camera crew I didn't know. And I'm sharing what is the most vulnerable and transparent story that I have. And it's not just my story, it's the story of all my brothers. And I have to get naked in front of people I don't know. And it was hard trying to remember it. The way that it's recorded is actually not the way that it's written. I could only get through like a couple of takes of it. I broke down. I didn't want to do it. I thought I did a terrible job. I left. I went to my car. Kevin paid me, and I was like, well, let me think. I'm going to give him the money back, and maybe we can do another shoot of it. I didn't want it to be bad.
Wow.
I felt unsafe. I felt like Kevin set me up for failure, though he did not. He didn't, but that was just being in that. It is one of the most traumatic experiences I've had, and it has set me freer than I think I've ever been. I pause between that because I don't want to perpetuate the narrative that freedom is on the other side of struggle. That you have to experience something traumatic for these great things to happen. That this great creativity comes in these spaces of void. Sometimes I can get it because I'm so happy. I'm just so elated in life and I feel so good. This new thing has come, right? I don't want to perpetuate that. But the truth of this space is this hurt like hell, man. It hurt. It really did. And we decompressed and decompressed and decompressed and decompressed. This is the most important male relationship that I have. Kevin exists in all of my in-betweens and my gaps and all of those things. It's one of the safest spaces I know. And to have to do that, and in my head, I'm like, Kevin don't know, and he don't realize what he's doing to me, and it has nothing to do with him. But those are real emotions that come up, right? And I have to process them, and then I have to go share that with my friend in the hope that that doesn't create a rift, and that he's open enough to hear it and receive it. It's layered. It's so layered.
My relationship with the artists, my relationship with the individuals. There's a lot asked. And what I learned from this experience was that, one, pain is real and trust is real. He would not have been able to share those layers of pain if he didn't trust me, trust the process.
That was a space for you to hold
But
him.
then that's the other part. The level of responsibility that I have, it hurts me at times, but I know in this case it did hurt me. John and I are close, and I say in front of him, I know that this part of his story, our story, has affected our relationship. Not that we don't love each other, but there's still more that he needs to say to me in the process, and I'm here, and he knows that. But it's not the first time that this experience has happened, because you're asking individuals to literally lay out their stuff, stuff that hurts. Ultimately, what I recognize is that in John being an empath and John being able to express and write the way he does, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And because he's able to do that, that silver lining is something that someone needs to connect with. When we have the discussions, that's when we make it clear that the silver lining is not always there for everyone. But the Truth Project's purpose is to meet them at that point and figure out if we can walk together on this journey and try to figure out how to possibly get you to the next step. Then we've done our job. But John having to expose that, it was hard. It was really hard. I felt horrible because he hadn't had this type of response before. There was one other time where he and I shared a piece with another artist titled Letters to Our Fathers. That was the last time that John had this type of response. And I recognized the responsibility and how I must care for him as my brother. He wouldn't have just wrote this just to write it. He wrote it for this project, And so what I know is that the healing is real. And I know it pains you, but brother, when this is in a space where it's accessible and more people are able to experience it, what you are going to get back from this community is going to be part of that peace that you're needing, not for the silver lining, but for you to get closer to whatever's needed as you're progressing through life.
I personally would love for everybody to be healed, however they healed, whatever they can get, right? That's why I signed up to be a part of the Truth Project. I love what the Truth Project is doing. I love what we get to do. Now I get to say we. I'm new, so I get to say we. I love what we're doing.
Yes.
I also feel like, hey, so yes, a bunch of people can be helped, but is that my responsibility? Like, do I want to carry that? Because the artist is responsible for the work, the way the curator is responsible for the artist, right? Like, so I'm taking all of this stuff and I'm putting it down in a tangible format that somebody else is going to receive and they're going to be impacted by. And I have a responsibility to what I put out.
So final question, Kevin, how can the public see Black Boy Symphony? Will it be given a public release at some point?
Great question. Yeah, so as everyone has listened in and you're able to connect, there's a word that I've used a lot, and that's intentional. And so what I've recognized is that this body of work must be seen. We are intentionally creating spaces for discussion, bubbles of sorts, since we've been using that word a lot during the pandemic, where we can have the types of discussions that the three of us have been able to have today, to talk about when that silver lining just really is not real for you. and what that means, and as an organization, how we can support, and also to recognize that support may take years. This is all a process, but I'm so appreciative for you utilizing the reference around Marlon Riggs, and what an honor. And you cannot tell me that those brothers did not have conversation and struggle and pain getting through that body of work. But here we are 25, 30 years later, and there's so much more that's going to come with Black Boys Symphony. I'm really, really excited for these next steps.
I'm very excited, and that's exactly why ICU wanted to just rush to get this going. I mean, it's an amazing project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin Anderson. Thank you, John Nichols, for taking this opportunity
to be vulnerable here and candid in discussing the Truth Project. Visit truthprojecthtx.org for more details about Black Boys Symphony. And this wraps up another episode of ICU. Our intensive care unit includes technical director Todd Hulslander, producer, editor Shannon McCurchie, editor Mark DeClaudio, sound designer Dave McDermott. ICU is a production of Houston Public Media. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and for feedback and show ideas, send us an email to the address talk@iseeushow.org. And for the latest updates, visit our website, iseeushow.org. I'm your host, Eddie Robinson. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen. And yeah, I feel you. We hear you. I see you.